Gents is now focused on the other USMNT transfer news. A lot of players have been moving on, a lot of movement and a lot of things for us to talk about in recent weeks. My question to you is this: which US players have got the best moves so far, and who needs one most? Because aside from Christian Pulisic maybe moving on, there's been loads of deals going on. I mean, Pefok to Union Berlin is a really good one. Tyler Adams and Brenden Aaronson to Leeds. Zach Steffen heading on to Middlesbrough to play regularly. Eden Horvath to Luton to play regularly. Matt Turner to Arsenal. Some really good moves. I just list them out there. Some big moves for these young US players. Andy, I want to come to you. What's the best move, do you think, in terms of for the player and also for the US men's national team?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think it's going to be Tyler Adams, ultimately. We know his importance to the U.S. men's national team. We know the role that he plays. We know his skill set specifically. And I think if he goes to Leeds, if that deal ends up getting done, then I think it's a very strong indicator of the way that Jesse Marsch is going to want to set Leeds up to play. Because Tyler Adams is almost an extension of Jesse Marsch out on the field. The familiarity that he has with him going all the way back to New York Red Bulls, and then the short time that they spent together at Leipzig as well. The familiarity is important, but I just think that what Adams does, the smart defensive work, the pressing, the ball winning, the counterattack launching, and to the point that Julian Lescott made to us this week, so smart reading the game defensively. He's an incredible emergency defender. I think that gives us a good indicator of how that team's going to play with Jesse Marsch as the permanent manager. And I think it provides a good landing spot for Tyler Adams as well. I think any other club or any other manager even in the Premier League, I would have big questions because he lacks a little bit of size. He's obviously got the motor, but the physicality of the Premier League is just something different. The pace as well is just different than anything else, anywhere else in the world. And so I think there would be a bit of an adjustment, but I trust, Jesse Marsch's ideas for Tyler Adams, because I think he is so familiar with him as a player and the importance that he has to the Premier League. If he can have a good importance to the national team, I should say, if he has a good first few months in the Premier League, that sets the U.S. men's national team up so well, because everything in that team revolves around Tyler Adams.
Yeah, I like it. I think obviously we're seeing Jesse Marsch shifted Leeds to be a bit more stable after Marcelo Bielsa left and he replaced him. And I think Adams's addition basically makes them even more stable. Like you said, he's a great firefighter, puts out promising situations for other teams very well, just plugs those gaps nicely. I do have a few issues maybe about the physicality in the Premier League, and I think we've seen Kai Havertz, Pulisic, and many others come over from the Bundesliga, and we kind of think they're quite similar, the Bundesliga and Premier League, as a good match recruitment-wise, but it's different. The pace is different. You always speak to players about that, but it does take time. So maybe we'll have to be a bit more patient with Tyler Adams, but I do think for him and Brenden Aaronson, I think that's a really good landing spot for them. And I think even if Leeds don't do as well as many think they will after losing some big players this summer, I think for those two players individually, they'll play a lot. And under Jesse Marsch, he will certainly be able to help them settle in a little bit more. Nick, any other players there? I know you're a big Pefok fan, and obviously his move after a great season in Switzerland, I think could potentially solve that number 9 issue, right? If he gets off to a flying start at Union Berlin. But him or any others you want to focus on about the best moves and maybe someone else who needs a move?
Well, yeah, so that's the short term, right? When we talk about what move benefits him, a player the most, it's him. Because Union Berlin moved on their big-time striker. So this is someone that will at least have a chance, if he isn't even just straight up being targeted for it, to be a star in a Europa League team and a target forward and really show Greg Berhalter exactly what he's missing. I think, if there's ever a chance to erase a couple of bad misses in World Cup qualifiers, it's doing it on a big stage that everybody else is seeing as well. So I love that move for Pefok. I like the Aaronson move a lot, and then I will throw a wild card out there because the goalkeeper situation is very, 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 very interesting. I think Matt Turner is fine at Arsenal. I think he's more of a shot stopper. He's someone who can sit in a second chair and still be a starter. Whereas Steffen and Horvath, they both need to be out there. They both need to be fresh and moving their feet and be a part of playing the ball and being a part of a system. So I think all of the goalkeeper moves have a tendency to move. And then one name I felt like I had to say it on this week's show is Brenden Aaronson's brother, Paxton Aaronson, who just absolutely shined at the U20 World Cup. And I think it can only be a matter of time before he's somewhere being eyed as, not necessarily like for like, but the way we saw Gio Reyna emerge from a World Cup cycle, U20 World Cup cycle, and become a star or a star in the making in Europe.
Yeah, congrats to the U20 team, obviously making the Olympics in Paris in 2024 and winning the CONCACAF championship as well. That was great to see. And as you said, Nick, some really talented players that I'm sure if they're not already in Europe, they will make their way over there very soon indeed. Andy, out of some of the players who haven't moved yet, who needs a transfer most ahead of the World Cup? I know we focused on Christian Pulisic a lot during this show, but any other players you think, hey, they really need a move to freshen things up and to get ready for either battling to be in the squad or maybe battling to be in the starting lineup for Greg Berhalter's side?
Yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting another Chris Richards loan to Hoffenheim. Probably, I would just assume that that's in perpetuity now, just every season loaned on to them, where he's been pretty good. Good enough, I guess. We need a strong first half of the season for him to step up and make one of those starting center back spots his own. And then along the back line as well, Serginho Dest, the situation at Barcelona, even if you just remove Serginho Dest from it, is not a great situation at the moment. The financial issues that they're still having, being able to register newly signed players in the team is still a bit of an issue. Yet they're out here talking about some of the biggest names in the world on the market. I don't understand what's going on at Barcelona, but I think probably at this point it's pretty clear that Serginho doesn't really fit into Xavi's tactical plans. I think the fact that Dani Alves came back midseason last term and just became the starter once again at 35, 36, 37 years old is a pretty good indicator of that. So if he's going to be the starting right back, would like to see him playing regularly at a fairly high. It doesn't need to be Barcelona. I know that we love having these American players at these institutional clubs that are so recognizable all around the world. But if you go there and you don't play, it's no better than going somewhere else and not playing. Or you could go somewhere that's going to play you and give you an opportunity. And so I'd like to see him get out of there. Maybe somewhere in Germany. I think Serginho Dest would probably fit in because the fullbacks are asked to do so much of the overlapping. There's a ton of great central midfielders in the Bundesliga as well. And so the wide areas really belong to the fullbacks. And I think that's the way the national team wants to play as well under Berhalter. So, I don't have a club for you, but I know that there's a fit in there somewhere.
Yeah, Dest is the one player I really hope, if he isn't playing regularly at Barcelona, he gets a move elsewhere. And also Tim Weah. I think it's a really big year for him just to stay injury-free. Obviously, Lille have had some issues in recent seasons, not quite at the level that they were. But this could be a big opportunity for him this season to really take on the mantle as a genuine starter. We know what he's capable of. We've seen that for the US. But if he isn't going to be part of Lille's plans, where can he go? Can he go to somewhere in Germany, perhaps, or elsewhere in France, or even in England? And really, I think maybe the step to the Premier League might be a bit too much for him at this stage. But we've seen he is, at the moment, my locked-on starter. And I think for all of us, right, on the right-hand side for the US. So we really need him to have a really good few months at the start of the season. Stay injury-free. That's the most important thing for Tim Weah and a lot of these US players. And also, I'm just thinking about this out loud. Josh Sargent, again, another guy who's dropped down to the championship in Norwich City. Could he maybe go back to the Bundesliga and make a late surge towards this US squad? I don't know. I've chucked out a few names there, Nick, but any other situations we should keep an eye on when it comes to the USMNT and the transfer window this summer?
Yeah, and now I feel like a little bit speaking out of left field because I'm not a great follower of Valencia, but I would love to know if Yunus Musa is going to play in the midfield there. If we're talking about ideal situations ahead of a World Cup, I would like him in the middle rather than out wide. But for the most part, yeah. And even with Josh Sargent, he was the name I thought about mentioning, and you just did. But at the same time, if there's a guy who could use with maybe a couple extra yards of space to clean up goals and to get himself in order, I don't think the championship is a bad place if he can keep a starting space at Norwich.
Yeah, exactly. Build a bit of confidence, bang in 10, 12 goals early in the season, and who knows, he could be on the plane to Qatar with the rest of the US team. Okay, we'll keep you updated with all the latest USMNT transfer news over at Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. A lot for us to report in the last few weeks, a lot of big moves and a lot of other big moves potentially happening. So we will keep you updated and it will keep us very busy indeed in this World Cup year.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch highlights all season long, and be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend at 7 a.m. Eastern. And for even more content, head over to Peacock, where we've got live games, original series and a dedicated round-the-clock Premier League channel featuring studio shows, classic matches and much more.